So, this video is going to be a short summary of everything that we've learned in section 5.4 and 5.5 before we start moving on to combining these two sections in section 5.6. Let's start with compound inequalities. Compound inequalities come in two versions. We called the first one less sandwiches and the second one great or thens. We said that for a less sandwich, you're always going to have the x in the middle and you're always going to have the smaller number on the left side and the larger number on the right side. Now, in addition to that, these symbols are always less thans. We said that for a great or thens, we're going to have two separate problems. The word or will go in the middle, and you will have two separate inequalities. X is bigger than a number, or x is smaller than a number. Now, these could also have equal to's. It doesn't really matter. We can solve these just like we solve an equation with just more parts. So for problem 1, we would draw vertical lines through the equal sign, or through the inequality symbols. And since there are two of them, I have two vertical lines. Now I'm going to distribute the -2, which means I get -6 is less than -2x minus 2 is less than or equal to 8. Then I would add 2 to all three parts, which means I get -4 is less than -2x, which is less than or equal to 10. Finally, I would divide all three parts by -2, but this should sort of be setting off alarm bells in my head because what I just did was divide by a negative number. So what that means is that my symbols need to flip over. They are both going to change to greater thans, but that should also look kind of weird to you because these should always be less than symbols. So what we do is we flip-flop this entire thing. We flip the whole thing over and we say -5 is less than x, which is less than 2. Now on a graph, we would have, less than or equal to. What am I doing? Bloop. Oh, not there. Bloop and bloop. There we go. I can do this. Now, we would have a closed circle on the -5. We would have an open circle on the +2. And we would shade in between because it's a sandwich. For problem number 2, we're going to have two separate problems to solve. So the first side, we're going to add 2 on both sides of the inequality, which means we get 3x is greater than 9. Then we would divide by 3, so we would get x is greater than 3. For the second inequality, we would subtract 1 on both sides, so we would have -2x is greater than 8. Then we would divide by -2, so x is less than -4, because once again, this should set off alarms. Hey, I just divided by a negative. So I should probably flip my symbol over. Now the word or always needs to go in between, which is something that students often forget. They forget to copy that down. And I'm going to put an open circle on the 3, shade to the right, put an open circle on the -4, shade to the left. Next, absolute value equations. The first rule of absolute value equations is that you always have to get the absolute value by itself. So you have to isolate it. Then you write two equations. You keep one the same, and you keep one the opposite sign. Then you should solve. You should get two solutions, or sometimes no solution if you equal a negative number. Let's try number 1. To solve this, I would start by isolating the absolute value. So I'm going to add 4, and I get -3 times the absolute value of x minus 5 equals -12. Then I would divide by -3, and I would get the absolute value of x minus 5 equals positive 4. Now, I was a little worried there for a second, because if that had stayed a negative number, I might have been in some trouble and not been able to solve this. It might have been no solution. From there, I'm going to make two equations. The OG, the original, and the remix, which is the negative 4 instead of a positive 4. Now I'm going to add the 5. X equals 9. And I'm going to add the 5. X equals 1. And we're done. We're going to be combining these two ideas of compound inequalities and absolute value problems when we are done with our review and our quiz. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow.